Stress is defined as feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope with the mental and emotional strain in your life. Signs that you're experiencing dangerously high levels of stress are you feel like you have low energy, brain fog, restless sleep, and feel irritable and moody during your days. Because stress is such a serious thing, I've compiled a list of 10 things that I actually use on a daily basis that have led to me experiencing a life that is, for the most part, overall stress-free. Tip number 1 would be to have boundaries, specifically with your technology, your commitments, and with your heart. Some very practical ways I do this are, 1, I don't get on my phone first thing in the morning. I know a lot of people, and I in the past, used to have my phone right next to my bed. So first thing in the morning, I'd wake up, roll over, and check notifications. I don't do this anymore. I actually put my phone in a phone safe on the other side of the room so that I can wake up and not be attacked by all the things that I have to do, all the notifications in my day. Next, I turn off pretty much all the notifications on my phone, or I have do not disturb on almost all the time. Another way you can have boundaries is with your commitments. You don't have to say yes to everything you're invited to. Okay, so the last way that you can have boundaries is by giving yourself a break from being connected to the news 24/7. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about the stuff that's going on in the news. I just know that my heart was never made to carry the weight of everything going on in the world all the time. Tip number 2 would be that you actually have to prioritize living a stress-free life by seeking to ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. You see, hurry is something that we almost always feel like there's too much to do and not enough time. But that takes away from our ability to truly be present to the moment and love others. Love is not fast and rushed. Love is patient. Tip number 3 would be to allow for transitions, or a space for a margin between activities in life. So one common example from my life is that usually I'm working really hard during the day and have some activities in the afternoon that I have to go to. After I finish my work and I go to my activity in the car, I'll often want to put on an audiobook or something to continue learning. But my heart, when I do put it on, usually feels hectic and rushed and in a hurry. So instead, I will not put an audiobook on, I'll not put any music on, I'll just turn down the windows and give my mind some time to transition into the next thing. Tip number 4 would be to fight for distraction-free living by having a clear dividing line when it's time for work and then when it's time for play. What is helpful for me and where I find the most peace in life is when I'm able to say that I'm working here and then I don't get distracted at all. I'm just giving my whole 100% focus to work. And then when it's time to play and it's time to hang out with friends and enjoy the time, I'm not thinking about work at all. I'm just fully present there with them. Tip number 5 would be to get proper amounts of sleep and try your best to sleep at a set schedule each night. Okay, tip number 6 would be to actually, truly have a day of rest in your week. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you're working all day, every day, 24/7, nonstop, and it never ends. And don't treat your day of rest like a day off where you run errands and do a bunch of activities that you need to catch up on. That's not what it is at all. A day of rest is when you're supposed to find the activities that really make your heart feel good, joy, alive, present to the moment, and you do those things. Tip number 7 would be to seek to live a more simple life. When I first learned about minimalism or more simple living, I was challenged with a few steps to minimize the amount of clothes that you have, minimize the amount of hobbies that you're doing, the activities that you're committed to try to learn. Some practical things you can do are go in your closet and make a section of the clothes that you love wearing and typically wear a lot. And then make a section with the clothes that you really don't wear often. And then consider maybe giving all those clothes that you don't wear away. Tip number 8 would be to practice something called slowing. Slowing is just trying to slow down the pace of your life so that you can slow down the pace of your heart and not feel so hectic. Some of the things that I have been recommended to start practicing this in my life was 1, to drive the speed limit, 2, get in the slow lane, 3, come to a full stop at stop signs, 4, don't text and drive, number 5, show up 10 minutes early for activities that you have to do, number 6 would be to take a morning walk nice and slow so that you don't rush super fast into your day. This one for me is very hard to work on, but every time I do implement some of these things, my heart does slow down and I feel way less stressed, especially driving in the middle lane or the slow lane in traffic and not trying to weave in and out through people. When I can just be like, you know what, I'm gonna be early anyway, then I can just chill and listen to a book or roll the windows down and just really take it easy. Tip number 9 would be to make a schedule for your days. I used to think in the past that having a schedule is more of a form of restriction rather than freedom, but since I've actually come to use a schedule in my daily life, I have found so much freedom in it. And the final tip number 10, is to be kind to your heart. Last year on April 30th, I remember I wrote down a note, and this is what the note said. It said, "Who says I have to run at maximum efficiency all the time? I'm not an effing machine." Now that doesn't mean I didn't have goals or didn't work towards my goals anymore. I still work towards my goals. I was just a lot kinder to my heart along the way, because I noticed that the way that you treat your heart is the way that you'll treat others. So if you are harsh and hard on your heart and you have high expectations and you don't give any grace when you fall short, you're going to be like that towards other people as well, and that is not something that you want. On this channel, I'm all about giving very practical tips, because that's what I love when I watch other YouTube videos, so I try to do that for y'all as well. But I know from experience that tips alone don't usually get at the core issue. That's why people can go from video to video and really not experience the change that they want. What I have found that is really underlying this issue, specifically on stress, is that a stress-free life comes more from the kind of person you are on the inside rather than the things that you do. The kind of inner life that someone has largely dictates how they experience their day-to-day life. I can honestly say that I'm typically never stressed. Credit that to the tips, yes, of course, but even more so to my decision to follow Jesus and model my life after his. You know how back in the day they used to have apprenticeships, and apprenticeships were really big. So if you wanted to learn something, you would find somebody older than you that did it, and that you would spend a lot of time with them, and then you'd learn how to do the things that they did and the ways that they did them. And so I take the same approach with Jesus. I apprentice myself under Jesus. You see, when the Bible talks about salvation, a better translation from the Greek would be healing. So Jesus went around in his life and he offered this healing kind of life to everybody. He continues to offer it to others, including me, including you. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my way of life upon you and learn from me, because I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls, because my way of life and teaching is easy." At the end of the day, the true freedom from stress that came in my life comes as a result of the fact that I can say, God is my Father and I really lack nothing. And no matter what situation or circumstance comes in my life, I know that he's got my back, and I know that he'll work it for the good. So I am not going to get flustered by these things that are going on. Now, granted, I know many of you probably have experienced way more suffering and trauma than me, but I trust God's character. If what is taught in Christianity is true, and God really came in the flesh in Jesus Christ and gave himself as a ransom for us so we could enter back into true connection and relationship with God, then I can trust that God's character. And if that God's character is so good to do something like that, and then he also calls me to be his son and says that you can trust me and cast all your anxiety and stress on me because I care for you, shoot, I am going to go through my life feeling like I'm invincible, truly. That's where I get my security and hope from. That's where my deep foundation for living a stress-free life comes from. And then I practically put those other steps in place, and it leads to an even more flourishing life. So this is the best thing that I know to help you experience true freedom from stress in life, and that's why I want to share it with you. On this channel, I love to talk about all the big questions of life and give people very practical steps that they can take in order to move towards that kind of life. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, then I think the best way to follow along with that would be to subscribe to the channel. If you want to know more about why I decided to start following Jesus, then you can watch my video here titled The Meaning of Life, where I talk about all of that. Or if you want to learn more about how to live this stress-free life, I would really recommend watching this video that I made on how to be happy. Because after all, how many times when you're feeling at your happiest are you stressed out? There's a huge connection between the two. So the next best step you can take if you're interested in learning about living more stress-free would be to watch this video here on happiness. Okay, see you in the next one.